What's it like living in Japan?
I like it. I think sometimes it's hard as a foreigner because
interaction there is between strangers. So there's not so much casual conversation as
A difficulty I ran into almost immediately was just
What was the hardest of things to start living in Japan?
I think actually one of the biggest culture shocks was
Hi everyone, guten Abend, it's Tatsu. Today I'm going to interview non-Japanese people. What's it like living in Japan? Anyway, let's dive in. Wait, don't forget to subscribe my channel and hit the like button. Alright, let's dive into it. Thank you very much for your help. Could I ask what country are you from and how long have you been in Japan so far?
I'm from America, from the southeast part of America. My home state is South Carolina. I've been living in Japan for 2 months now.
so I'm from America. I've been in Japan for 13 months, a little over a year.
I'm from America. I'm from the northeast of America, and I've lived in Japan for a little over 1 year.
I am from America and I've been living in Japan for about a year.
Awesome. Today I'm gonna be asking about living in Japan. First of all, simply, what's it like living in Japan?
I think living in Japan is fun and it's stressful.
Can you be more specific? When
When it comes to living in Japan, I think fun things are like just meeting new, interesting people. There's a lot of interesting people that come to Japan. I just like hearing different foreigners. I meet a lot of foreigners, and so I get to like hear about why they came to Japan and just like their different countries as well. But also like just Japanese society is cool and very interesting. Yeah, but stressful also because there's a lot of differences I've experienced between things and things I don't understand why people do the way they do here.
unwritten rules.
Unwritten rule. Yeah, dude, you got to read the air.
Do people stare at you?
I feel like whenever I first moved to Japan, I felt like they stared at me more. But now I don't feel like they do.
Because you got used to it.
I think so. I think I got
Ah.
used to it.
It's nice.
It's nice.
I like it. Yeah.
You like it?
I think sometimes it's hard as a foreigner because sometimes you get stared at more, and so it makes me feel like is something wrong. But I think soon that went away, and it's very convenient. People are very polite, and so
Sure.
I like life here.
I think living in Japan as a foreigner is a lot of fun because you get to learn how to live in a different culture. It's also very difficult because you have to learn how to live in a different culture.
So far, so good. I've been trying to adjust to things. I'm still in that process, definitely. But so far, I'm really just enjoying how safe everything is, convenience of things like public transportation, kind of just how peaceful and quiet it can be at times. More than anything, just really been enjoying the food so far.
Do you think you wanna go back to the United States or you wanna settle down in Japan in the future?
Maybe for now, I plan to stay in Japan. Maybe in the future, I'll go back to America. But for now, I plan to settle in Japan.
That's something that I've definitely been trying to think over right now. It's kind of a hard decision, and you do have to make that. Since I'm on a 1-year student visa, you do kind of have to make that decision a little bit earlier on than I would like to commit to. I do have some things going for me back in America that I might want to do. By the time I'm done with my student visa, I'm not convinced that my level of Japanese will be good enough to maybe land a job that I'm hoping for. I think I might just be stuck in Eikaiwa. I don't think I would really be competitive against a Japanese person and really other type of work jobs, other type of occupation. So right now, I'm planning to go back to America unless things kind of drastically change.
How long does it take to get used to living in Japan?
I think it's all like a matter of steps, kind of. So I think maybe after the first month, I was like, okay, we can kind of live here. And then after like 3 months, it's like, I feel mostly comfortable. I can do most things in my life. Then 6 months, it's like I'm completely comfortable doing like going to the konbini, going to a restaurant. I can do that. But paperwork, stuff like that is still very hard. And then now at about a year, this feels like my regular life. I'm not like moving to Japan. It's like I live in Japan. This is where I live now, right? But there's still so many things that I don't know about Japanese life that I still don't know.
I'm curious, like, how many times did you head to City Hall to do paperwork stuff?
Probably like around at least 10 times in the past year we've
Wow.
gone.
Definitely more than Japanese people.
Yes.
You have to, when it comes to updating your like residence card stuff.
Yeah,
have
we'll
to
have
get
to. We haven't had to update it yet, but we've had issues with some of our things like our pension program. It's like we did it and then it got messed up, so then we had to go back to the office and do it again. And so it's just those sort of things. That's like because we don't know Japanese very well, it's hard to do it right the first time. So you have to repeatedly visit the same place.
Right.
That's a great question. There's something that I'm not used to still.
Still,
Yeah.
still trying to,
Still trying to get
facing-
used
still
to it.
facing-
Yeah. But so after a year, I've gotten a lot more used to it. I think I've gotten over more of like the fears to like go to like the Yubin Kyoku, like the post office
office.
and stuff like that. I've been embarrassed a few times at the post office and things like that. But just the more you do it, the more you get used to it. So I'd say the faster you face your fears, the faster you'll get used to Japan, or the faster you make friends too.
I'm pretty sure Japan must be quite a unique country compared to the others. Most of non-Japanese people will be surprised when they landed in Japan. And now I'd like to know what was the biggest culture shock and also huge difference between here in Japan and your country, the United States.
Big difference would be I walk a lot more in Japan than I ever did in America. In America, we basically just drive everywhere. And so here, like public transportation and walking is a lot more common. And so that took some adjustment for me. And I was kind of tired the first few weeks because
True.
I was walking everywhere. My body was very tired. But culture shock, I think really just stuff regarding language was really not a culture shock to me necessarily, but the hardest part of moving here. Since I didn't know any Japanese before moving here, I learned it since coming. All of the like most of the signs are in Japanese. Some speak a little bit of English, but mostly speak Japanese. And so it was really hard for me to get around and do the things that I wanted to do when I didn't know Japanese. So that was maybe a shock for me. We did just get our driver's license though here in Japan. So I don't have a car, but I can rent a car now in Japan. So that's a step.
Like, was it hard to switch the license?
Kind of. It took about 6 months from the start of like the paperwork until taking our final test and getting our license. It took a very long time, but it was relatively easy for us. We had to take the written test and a driving test, even though we drove in America before.
Is it all English?
The writing test is in English. The driving test is in Japanese.
Was it easy peasy?
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Easy, maybe not, but we got to practice beforehand. So we like practiced the course beforehand, and then when we did it for the test, it was really simple. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest difference between America and Japan is that America is very wide and very loud. Everyone is very loud. But in Japan, it's very small. Everything is very narrow and quiet. Like, it's a very big value here. So, for example, like when you ride on an elevator, no one talks. It's like you face forward and no one says anything, right? Yes. But in America, it's like you can talk on elevators, you can talk on trains. Like, it doesn't really matter where you talk. That was a big culture shock for me, was trying to learn how to be quiet at the right times.
That's kind of in a good way.
Like, I think it's a good thing, but it was hard for me to get used to at first, because I would like be with my friend and we would get in the elevator and I want to keep talking to them, but they would just like turn around and look forward and not say anything to me.
Yeah, fair enough. How long did it take to get used to living in Japan?
I think learning rules like that and like actually remembering them took me probably 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, so I came to Japan last May with my sister and my brother-in-law. So I've kind of already experienced some of those typical culture shocks that you'll hear about from Americans when they first come to Japan. For instance, like the fact that there's no public trash cans, but also no litter, which those two things happening simultaneously is pretty amazing, because in America, that can never happen. We have public trash cans, but there's still always litter. You know, some other things that like how polite Japanese people are, you know, I've kind of already experienced that. Right now, I think having lived here, one of the culture shocks that I'm experiencing is maybe just how little interaction there is between strangers, how there's not so much casual conversation as there is in America, especially where I come from. Yeah, we're always talking to strangers and starting conversations. And, you know, I could be talking to you on the street for 3 minutes and I'll ask, what's your job? How do you like your job? Yeah, do you have a family? Do you have sisters? Do you have brothers? And I've been told that those types of things are kind of strange to ask a stranger in Japan. So I've been trying to like navigate and figure out what's appropriate to like, as far as like starting conversations with strangers and just getting used to kind of like the social norms, I think is the biggest hardest adjustment right now.
I think actually one of the biggest culture shocks was just Japanese people aren't very critically thinking all the time. I feel like whenever you ask like a Japanese person their opinion or something, often they give you someone else's opinion actually, or like don't want to tell you their own opinion or how they feel. So kind of hiding like their true feelings towards something. So I feel like that's hard whenever it comes to like like the way I think of friendships in America and stuff. Like friendships here just like start very different than they do in America.
It can be like a hesitation, definitely.
Yeah. I think that was like a big shock for me, was just like how friendships work. I think at the beginning, whenever I wanted to become someone's friend, I had to like invite them to stuff at first. And then after me continually inviting them to things, then I started getting invited by them to things. I had to do a lot of like the upfront getting
Right.
to know somebody,
Makes
or like
sense.
putting together like
Right.
ways to hang out. I mean, differences are also like size of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
true,
is.
true.
Everything is like smaller in Japan, mainly because in America everything's big.
True,
Like we
true.
like big meals, and so in Japan I would like ask for like omori, like a bigger size of something, and it would be like barely any bigger, and I'd be like, "This is it."
I've heard of that. A bunch of non-Japanese people will be struggling to hunt jobs, apartment, create a bank account stuff. I reckon they would like to know what was the hardest of things to start living in Japan.
Getting the student visa was a little bit difficult. I've heard that the best way to do it is to go through an agency. I would say in hindsight, that would be my recommendation as well. And one of the advantages of having a student visa is that when you do get here, the school does a lot of stuff for you. So as far as like registering with City Hall, the school did that for me. A lot of my other documents, they helped us handle as well. They were with us when we submitted them and helped us translate. Some other things that might be difficult, as you said, finding a job might be difficult. I haven't tried that yet. I think if you come here as a native English speaker, a lot of people work in the Eikaiwa. I think it's a really easy option to do if you want to go that route. I've heard it's pretty easy to get, even for non-native speakers, but just English proficient speakers have gotten jobs in Eikaiwa. Opening a bank account was really easy for me. I cannot remember what bank. I want to say it was JP Post. So I opened a bank account with them and it was really easy. I did it on their app and it took me like 20 minutes. And then I set up I've also heard that it's hard to set up like a phone number. I did that with Rakuten, my international bank account. It took like 15-20 minutes on their app as well. I mean, it's really easy. So all that stuff is pretty easy. And then the last part about the apartment, I do know is pretty hard as a foreigner. I think share houses might be your best bet, but you do have to kind of contact them a little bit in advance. For me, I just went through my school. I got a dorm with them, so that was really easy. But if you're coming here as a foreigner, maybe looking to try to work and you don't want to live in a share house, from what I've heard, the best thing to do is to go through a realty agency that helps foreigners find foreigner-friendly apartment.
Everything was going well.
Yeah, everything has actually been really smooth. This is my first time moving abroad, so it's been pretty smooth for the most part, other than just like some adjustments that you have to make in like your lifestyle. Yeah, actually, like one thing that I'm still getting used to is not having a clothes dryer.
Using drying machine is not common here in Japan.
Yeah, my apartment doesn't have one, so I have to hang my clothes up. Like for me, it's such a strange thing to have to get used to because you have to like plan out when you're gonna do your laundry. Whereas in America, you just throw it in and you go. But you have to like plan if it's gonna be sunny. Like, oh, it's a sunny day tomorrow, I should do my laundry tomorrow. And you have to do smaller loads because you want to let them hang out to dry as best as possible.
Well, I was actually really lucky because through my job, my boss already speaks Japanese. And so he was able to help me like get a bank account and like do all those kinds of like government office things where you need to speak Japanese to be able to do them. So that wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be since he helped us. But I think maybe a particular difficulty of moving straight here to Sapporo is I didn't speak any Japanese at all. The only Japanese I knew when I moved here was sumimasen. And so I think living in Sapporo, a difficulty I ran into almost immediately was just the language barrier, because not a lot of people here speak English. Everywhere I went before I spoke Japanese, it was really embarrassing and really difficult to get around because I couldn't like order food. I couldn't figure out how to pay at the konbini or like
Or even convenient.
yeah, like 'cause if you go to the 7-Eleven, you pay for yourself. But if you go to like Lawson or something like that, you know, they have to like ask if you're gonna pay with Genkin or pay with card or something.
Mhm.
But I didn't know that. And so I was look around for where I would tap my card at and I couldn't find it. I think learning language is really difficult at first.
I think paperwork. There's just a lot of paperwork. Basically, like if you don't like doing paperwork, it's gonna be pretty rough. Because I feel like I was surprised how much paperwork is in Japan. I think every time I moved 3 times whenever I first came to Japan, like within the first month, and you have to go to the office to report your new address all the time. It was just like the most terrifying experience for me. Was going in there and like always doing paperwork. But
You can't do it online, right?
you can't do anything online. That's the hardest part. I mean, they're kind of changing things now. I think also just in those situations, like if you have help or not, like it can be really hard because kanji makes it hard, like writing paperwork and things like that. And like people are very busy, so you don't know like what you're supposed to do in a certain situation. So I feel like it can be very stressful and makes you want to like give up and leave whenever like I think the systems of Japan are very intimidating.
Can I ask, how did you find the accommodation?
So actually, I was lucky enough to have a realtor. Place I work for has provided us a realtor so that they can help us like search for apartments. So I didn't have to do it on my own. And I also, not a common experience, I got my apartment, like I got the apartment I applied for first. Yeah, the first time I ever applied, I got the apartment, which is not normal at all. Like most foreigners have to apply for 2, 3, 4 apartments before they finally get one.
Have to be patient.
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, it was easy for me.
I think when we were first moving here, we got warned a little bit about finding an apartment in Japan because I've heard a lot that foreigners have a hard time renting in Japan, but we actually were very lucky. This is a good experience, I guess, but maybe a bad experience after. But it's like our realtor who was helping us find our apartment, she's Japanese, but she had lived in South America for like 10 years.
Wow.
And so when she came back to Japan, she had like a passion for helping foreigners find housing in Japan. We were really blessed and lucky to have her help us find an apartment. So we didn't face any like discrimination when finding apartments, which is the most common one I think I hear for people moving here. But after finding an apartment, it's like you have to buy all the stuff for the apartment, right? It's like most Japanese online websites don't take like any foreign credit card, so you can't buy online from anything. So we had to go physically to like a Nitori, to places and bring back our furniture and stuff mostly, or ask one of our friends who had cars to drive it back for us. We tried applying for a credit card, but then we were rejected from applying for the credit card. It took a few months to like finally get everything we wanted to get from the store because you had to take it on the train, right? We couldn't drive at the time, so it's like you're taking these huge bags of stuff back from the train. That was kind of tough for us, I think.
How's cost of living in Japan? I know it's definitely cheaper than the United States.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting. Japan is more expensive in some ways and cheaper in other ways. If you compare like the cost of an apartment from America to Japan, they're roughly the same. It costs about as much to rent an apartment as it does in America. But like the price of food is much lower here. In America, if you want to like go out and get dinner for yourself, it's going to cost like 2,000 yen for yourself.
You mean 1 meal?
For one meal.
For
one person is like 2,000 yen.
Wow.
It is a lot. But like here, it's like if you want to go out and eat, I guess it depends on where you go, but you can eat for like around 1,000 yen, that like around. And so just a little bit cheaper here to buy food.
You know, if you're converting from American dollars, which is what my savings were, I think it's really affordable. Onigiri is like dollar USD, so things are very affordable. And my apartment is 24,000 yen. It's overall just really affordable. And I think even if you're earning your income in yen, I think you'll find that Japan is even still with earning your income in yen is affordable. I think the rent makes up a smaller portion of your salary as well as food. But I'm not 100% sure on that, but definitely if you're converting just savings to Japanese yen from US dollar, it's definitely very affordable.
I think relative to America is much more expensive. There's random occasions where like fruits are more expensive in Japan, I think, actually.
Banana or strawberry stuff?
I think like watermelon and stuff like that. Like grapes, peaches are much more expensive here. I would say like living in an apartment is much cheaper here because I live in like for the apartment I live in here, it would cost a lot more in America.
Can I ask, how much do you have to pay for the rent?
Around like hachiman every month, yeah. I don't know how much that is in dollars, maybe like $600 something a month. But in America, I think it would be like 700 like minimum.
Yes, definitely cheaper. I think for us, especially it's crazy living in Sapporo, like such a pretty big city for like it's the 5th biggest city in Japan, right? For living in a pretty big city, it still feels really affordable for us compared to the American cities right now. It would probably be double the cost to live in a city in America than what we live on right now.
I reckon Japan is getting more and more popular in this whole world. Some of them will be trying to move to Japan or stuff. Do you have any advice for them?
I think if you're going to move to Japan, you should have a good reason for moving to Japan. Because
Good
I
reason.
think whatever reason you move to Japan for is the reason that will like keep you in Japan. I think anybody leaving their own country and going to another country will find that it's very difficult. Number one, different languages and things like that. Knowing that it'll be difficult, having good expectations, like you're gonna have culture shock and things like that, and like times where you like feel really lonely, right? Because like everybody is speaking another language and you don't understand. So I think having those expectations.
I think being flexible is really important when moving to any new country, just to kind of make sure that you know what your expectations for that country are, and then have grace, like be able to change your mind about things when things aren't exactly how you pictured them or aren't exactly how you wanted them to be. So keeping like an open mind and being willing to adapt to things, I think is really important. And moving to any country, but especially Japan, as I know Japan is like often portrayed in media and stuff, and people see it like, oh, that must be what Japan is. But maybe when moving here, it's different in some ways.
I have probably 2 tips for any foreigner who wants to come to Japan. Number 1 is learn Japanese. It'll be very helpful before you get here. And number 2 would be don't think that Japan is perfect. A lot of people in America, like they grow up watching anime and they get really into like Japanese culture, but they kind of have this idea that Japan is this perfect place where nothing bad ever happens. That's just not true. Whether you live in Japan or you live in America or you live anywhere else in the world, there are going to be bad things that happen or
Yeah,
differences
true.
in the culture.
Yeah, there's no perfect place, definitely.
There's no perfect
Yeah.
place. Come to Japan because you want to come, but be ready to face culture shock and see the things that are not so great about it. But be able to have both. Love Japan and do the things that you enjoy, but also be ready to be surprised at the things that you don't enjoy, would be my tip.
I would say keep watching videos like this, watch Tatsu's videos.
Oh, thank you.
This is honestly like what I did before I came is I watched videos like this from other foreigners, got their perspectives and their tips, and you will rely on those tips so much when you get here, and it'll make your life so much smoother rather than trying to figure out everything on your own when you get here. These kinds of videos is actually how I learned about language school, because I had applied to JET and I didn't get in, but I still wanted to come to Japan this year. It was like a good time in my life to come to Japan, and so I really wanted to take that opportunity. So I watched a video of this guy talking about his experience with the language school, and that's what I ended up doing. I would recommend watching these videos, and then also for my specific tip that I would give is to do your best. It's really hard, but do your best to study Japanese before you come. I think every experience that you'll have will be like tenfold better because you know like a little bit of Japanese, whether it's just being able to order food at a restaurant without like a lot of like confusion that you get when you trying to just like point at things and say like, can I have this, you know, in English, and you know it might not register. But more so than that, like just you'll be able to interact with people and make casual conversation. So that would be my recommendation for people who want to learn Japanese. Please do not use Duolingo. I'm gonna like do an anti-commercial against Duolingo because I used it for a year before I first visited Japan, and all I knew how to say after a year was like Gohan to Mitsu kudasai. That's all you learn, and it's just gamified. You don't actually learn anything useful. So my recommendation would be to pick up a textbook. If you can afford it, hire a Japanese tutor online through one of the many apps and websites that you can do that. Just do your best, and it's gonna be hard, and you just kind of have to stick with it. Find opportunities to use it so that you feel motivated.